Hello, beauty. It's Sandy again with a little moment of wisdom for you, a little tip, and perhaps some lessons. And I just got to share this with you. I had something that I like to call a write downable moment, a quote that comes off of a podcast, the radio, the TV. It's somebody says something that resonates with you, and you got to write it down. Most of the time, my partner Ray and I, we do this all the time. We have little pieces of paper constantly, but it's something that helps be a catalyst for what we're writing, teaching, coaching, or just for ourselves. We do a lot of that, self reflection, right? So this one was really kind of cool. We were watching a show. First of all, we exercise in the morning and we have the TV on. It kind of keeps us in there longer, but it gives us a background. Sometimes it's music or another, maybe somebody's exercise video, but most of the time we're catching up on a show or we've got some music going. We might really just search for something that can be there where we don't have to pay super close attention because we want to do the workout well. And so we stumbled on Limitless with Chris Hemsworth. It's on the Disney Channel. I think that it could be elsewhere, but it's a really neat series. And what he does, he's looking at the idea of healthy longevity, living a long life in a healthy way. And so with each episode, he goes with usually one or more friends to challenge himself over the top ways on doing this and focusing on one thing at a time. So some of it's handling stress, handling shock. He did a whole thing on water fasting, which we've done, but this was like, again, over the top, where he actually also learned to hold more oxygen in his lungs so he could go diving without a tank while on this crazy water fast. Insane. But this particular one that we caught, we actually haven't even finished it. He's in the Australian Outback. He's been dropped with a friend by helicopter into a place in the Outback, and they have to find their way out. They're going to be able to camp and do all of that. Now, they have been given a chance to see the terrain from above, see a map, kind of look at, what they're going to need to do. But once you're on the ground, that looks a little different, right? So anyway, they've got all of that. And there's a funny scene where their phones are taken away. And Chris has extras in his socks, under his hat. It's quite funny. But there they are without any of that kind of resource, which I think when they're way out there, if they would even work, right? But they could have something on there with their map, etc. So anyway, they're out there, and before their guide leaves, who is his friend with him is from that area, his ancestors, etc. He's grown up there, and the guy that's with them is also. And he leaves them with this beautiful nugget of wisdom that I want to talk about today. And I quote, "Listen with your own ears, see with your own eyes, stay true to who you are." Now, I want you to think about that as we look at, if you're in the Outback, of course, your senses are going to be keen. You're going to be hyper alert, looking everywhere, listening for every sound, whether that might be some sort of animal or it might be the sound of a river and waterfalls, anything, and watching for the sun, etc. Where are we? Which way do we go? But however, in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life, that would be considered present moment awareness. And it is something that we read about, we try to do for ourselves, but we know we can't do that constantly, unless maybe we're a monk that's been meditating for 40 years. It's not an easy thing to do, but it is something we want to think about to bring ourselves back, because it takes us out of our busy mind and helps us stay grounded. But I want you to take a moment now to look at this whole idea, or it's not an idea, it's actually a part of us, this invisible energy system that runs through our body and is controlled by energy centers or chakras. Now, you know, I definitely teach about that. I've written about it in the Woo Woo Way. But at this point, we're just specifically looking at our eyes and ears. So the ears are part of the fifth chakra. It is part of our communication, how we listen, and how we are listened to. And yes, it's called the throat chakra for a reason. That's the location of that particular energy center. And it's all about our speaking our truth, our voice, our words, our body language, our writing, whether to ourselves in our journal or to others, in an email, in a text, right? And then we have to just look at that idea of how the ears are part of that. I want you to just kind of ask, let's ask ourselves, who and what are we listening to? What kind of music? What source of information are we taking in? From podcasts and television, from social media, from TikTok, right? And what kind of balance does that give us? Is it hyping us up? Do we get triggered, or does it calm us down? Do we have some balance in there? And then how are we listening? Are we a passive listener? And we can do that a lot with our TV and our music, whether we're streaming that or whatever. That can be in the background as we're working. That's fine. But then again, when we're with someone, when we're talking, whether we're actually communicating with a screen or in person, are we listening? Is it passive? Is it active? Is it reactive? Are we thinking of what we want to say before the person even finishes what they're saying? And can we listen empathically? Can we really engage with that person and listen, feel their energy, see where they're coming from? And then let's just look at that idea with how we are seeing. First of all, with our listening, let me flip my little bullet points around so I don't forget anything, guys. When we're being heard, are we feeling that we're being actually perceived the way we want it to be? And if we're not, let's look at how we're communicating. Because often when we look at that, I know in my coaching, I hear women say, I just want to be heard, right? I just want to be seen. So let's look at that. So now if we go up to the sixth chakra, which is the third eye, and it's often depicted in the middle of the forehead. The third eye is actually back here at the base of the skull, a sort of direct line this way. That little spinning wheel is back there. But in tapping, it's the tapping point for the third eye is at the end of the brow. It's called the eyebrow point. We tap with either one or both hands and tap that point. So if we tune into that idea of where we see, it has a lot to do with how we're looking out at the world, what we're seeing. What do we choose to look at? What do we choose to ignore? What's coming in? Are we blind to truth? Or are we susceptible to falsehoods, whether we're hearing or listening, seeing? And then are we true to ourselves? The last part of that quote. I want to look at what percentage of time do we take to get outside in fresh air, to look and see, to take in all the sights and sounds and feelings of nature, even just taking a moment to look out the window. And you can do that during the day if you're like we are here and you're on your laptop or other devices. Take a moment and look out. And you can, stand up, move around, feel some energy, right? And then let's take this look at the balance that we have, because we have all this external stuff coming at us, and we're engaging with screens, and we're bombarded by life. There might be circumstances, there are lots of responsibilities that we have to attend to. So let's look at that percentage of what's coming in, what kind of stuff is flooding into us, and what sort of balance are we getting. And then let's look at the percentage of time that we're actually engaging with others. Again, whether it's on a screen or in person, are we really engaging? Can we practice empathic listening with our loved ones, our spouse and partner, our families, our children, our friends, our coworkers, our associates, anyone? Can we practice that, of really getting involved and looking someone in the eye, that eye-to-eye contact? And no, we don't have to stare. That's really very awkward. But you can just kind of make sure that you're paying attention and you're feeling that energy. Is somebody actually saying one thing, but you're feeling a different energy from them? From their tone of voice, their body language, their energy. If you're doing empathic listening, you will feel more and more of that energy. And then let's look at what's most important. Taking a look inward to see and to hear from inside of us. Using our inner sight, that inner being. That's going inward into our body, out of our busy minds, and uncovering what our lower selves, our ego, our shadows need. And then listening with our inner ears for the whispers from our higher selves, our soul. Listening to the whispers of your soul. And really truly listening to that. Taking that moment. And yes, this is part of meditation, but you don't have to call it meditation if you don't want to. It's just a moment to go within yourself. It's wonderful to do that outside. Take in everything outside and then go within and breathe. Look out a window and breathe. Or just light a candle. Or just, sit down with pen and paper, especially, have a journal for these moments and see what comes up for you. And even if you're just doodle drawing, you can be really surprised at what might be there. So I want you for throughout this week to think about how often you can be in present moment awareness and feel what's going on. Listen for the sound of the water in the sink as you rinse a dish, right? Look outside, be present. Take a moment for yourself. Look someone in the eye. Even if you're walking down the street, when you're passing them, say hello. Or, how often do we walk by someone who is on the street and who might be homeless? Yes, they could be a panhandler, but let's notice how we handle the world and take those moments for yourselves. And check out Chris Hemsworth. He's quite good to look at. Have a wonderful week, and I'll be back next time.